Hello gents, how do you do? Today we're going to do some more, well, finishing basically. I've got this rather lovely, it's another one of my new razors. Well, I say new, it's not new, I've had it nearly a year I reckon. Come to me, dodgy horn, scales, like really brittle and everything. Anyway, I had these horn scales. I've done various posts on some forums and that. But look at that, just lovely. Show off the blade lovely, don't they? Really pleased with them. Really pleased with the razor. So, it used to say on it, university approved, Wingaard, ready for use or ready set. One of them. You can barely see it now. I've not polished it to death or anything. I like it as it is. I like a bit of patina and whatnot. To me, it's just a lovely razor. So I was actually after a Sheffield frame back, because I've had numerous Swedish frame backs, because Sweden are known for their frame backs. Like Sheffield was a little bit as well, I do believe, but especially Sweden. So I thought, and I'd had so many Swedish frame backs, but the problem with the Swedish frame backs for me is the shanks are really thin. They're really dainty, and me getting older as well, it don't really work out. My hands, got builder's hands, or at least that's what I call them. So I come across this bit bigger in width, generally that's a bit bigger, and there was a photo that was displaying it that way, and I looked at it and I was thinking, that's chunkier, that's a bit chunkier, and it is. It's just a bit fatter, a bit chunkier, a bit bigger generally than most Swedish razors, and the shank is bigger. It's still slim, it is a frame back, you can't deny that, but it's okay. I've got, it's alright. I quite like the little tang as well. It's a little bit shorter, a nice little curl on it. But anyway, so I bought it, not without really doing any sort of research on the maker. So I think it's C.J Wingaard and Co. Trafalgar Works, Sheffield. And I have done a bit of research on them, and I'll put it in the description, or I'll put it up or edit in, or whatever I do, but I will put it up what I found. I didn't find too much, but lo and behold, what does it turn out to be? He's of Nordic descent. so likely he grew up, or his dad especially grew up with Swedish razors, and lo and behold, I've bought a Swedish frame back that's a bit chunkier, but it's disguised in a Sheffield. So I'm not put out at all, because I'm probably one of the biggest fans of Swedish razors, especially on YouTube. Anyway, I can definitely lay claim to that, I reckon. But yeah, I love Swedish razors. I just love them. So lo and behold, I've got a biggish Sheffield razor that he's probably made with Swedish steel, and it definitely acted like Swedish steel as well. It's really, really bitey at the lower grips. And I don't normally tape razors, but I've taped it up to this point, so I'm just gonna retape it basically. And on its next hone-in, if it shaves brilliantly, I won't ever retape it again then. I'll just I'll let it kind of evolve with me, let's say, through the ages. Because this is my keeper, I can't ever imagine selling that, because that's what I've been after for a while, you see, so there you go. Right, let's have a little look under the microscope. Let's just warm it up, let's turn it on. And if you don't know already, this is my new to me Jnat. I've got it from the same dude I got my other ones from. I've tested another razor on it. It is very soft compared to my level 5 Jnat. It is, look, I can show you a way of testing it, a rudimental kind of test. That's my nail. You can see the mark, can't you, I think? Now, especially if I do that. Look at this. So, just that alone, you can tell, can't you? It's actually good for smoothing your nails off, that is. Even had my lady on it. So it's wildly different from this, but it's what I wanted, you see, because I had a softer one before I had this. I learnt my kind of my skills on the softer one, but this one's even softer than the one I had before. Whether it'll turn out to be a true finisher, I'm not too sure. I've honed one razor on it, I finished it. I struggled to get it popping airs on normal strops. I had to get it onto my little paddle strops. Where are they? They're over here. I had to deploy my paddle strops that have got paste on them, so that's 0.25 micron, 0.50 and then 1 micron. Obviously I do it in the progression from top down. Yeah, and but I did get it popping nice, so we'll see, like, you know, jury's out a bit, but either, it's a lovely stone, really muddy, really smells like all the other Jnats I've had. Yeah, just lovely. Muddy, silky, not gritty at all, and it's definitely not damaging the edges, so to me that's always like the first port of call. So it's definitely not doing these. Oh, I just forgot to redo my water after my Koma. Right, let's have a look at this edge. She's popping airs like nobody's business, this razor. You could tell, like I said, it was very good steel. It's just nearly jumping off this razor. It's got a very good 12,000 edge. I did strop it, but probably about, I don't know, 10-15 laps after the stones, so not much at all. There we go. Sorry, just let me put the name in there so I know what I'm at. I forgot to do that with the other one. There we go. Just about, see, I can focus it kind of thing. There was a little tiny nick down here. Where is it? They're not nicks, they're where was it? Hang on, let me just clean it a bit. They're not nicks, they're not, they're bits of fluff. See if we can find a little. Yeah, so there it was, right in the middle of the screen there. There was a little tiny nick. I just left it and it's nearly gone through doing the progression of the higher grits. There's a few little scratches. The edge is ever so slightly a little tiny bit toothy. Sometimes a little tiny nick in the middle there. Sometimes I do hone further and try and get those little tiny tooths out of the edge, but on the whole I'm okay to leave it there. There's a kind of tiny little bit of a roll maybe there, but then it could be just light reflecting a bit weird as it was going around the corner. I did actually drop this bloody razor. Well, I had the scales off of it. I dropped it, and I dropped it down there, man, which is concrete, which is just your worst kind of luck. And I properly got away with it, but I've got a little tiny nick just there, and I ain't kidding you, that's cost me 3 hours work, that has, trying to sort of organically chase it around that edge so I don't, you know, curve it too much and whatnot. But yeah, it cost me a lot of time. If I didn't have to just chase it around that little bit there, I could have nearly just sat there doing the old backwards forwards, I reckon, for most of the, you know, the stonework, and, you know, Bob's your uncle's, fanny's your aunt, like, it'd have been a lovely job, nice and quick. But yeah, because of that little tiny nick, and because it's quite a precious razor to me, I really took my time, and, well, it cost me a lot of time, let's just put it that way. So we're going to do the old comb up today, and then we're just going to go from Koma to nothing today, and then just basically see where we're at. See, when I used it the other day, put the sun out a bit today, see that's pretty much white there, isn't it? But you watch this, once I keep going, it instantly, well, not instantly, but now it's gone a bit green. So what that means is we are definitely getting a combination of Koma and the base stone. Whether that's good, whether that's bad, I do not know. It's just an observation, and there we are, we've got an observation of that. You imagine it would probably help with the grinding, wouldn't you? But we'll see. Let me just chop that little bit of tape off. I don't like that stuff being there like that. Sometimes it can fold back and you get a dodgy. Yeah, don't judge me on my tapage. I'm not somebody that used tape on the much past 2000 really, especially if I know they're going to be my razors. But because this has got a nice brass spine to it, I wanted to preserve it a bit basically, like because all the initial resetting the bevel work and everything, and then I got up to 2000 and everything. I thought, let's just keep this one on, and it is like some of the thinnest tape you can get. This what's it called? Is it Katon tape? It's I think people use it in 3D printing or something. If I ain't said that right and you can't find it, just message me and I'll put the proper saying up. Yeah, but it's mega thin. It's pretty tough as well, I must say. Like even on the 1000 grit stone, when I'm doing rough setting of the bevel, it still holds up really quite well. It's quite surprising. We've got a little bit of sun going on for the stone. It's just gone behind some trees. Happy with the stone. It's proved itself at least razor safe, so going forward we can find a place for it. I imagine I'm going to keep this stone, well, if not forever, a long time. Let's just say that. I've got no plans on selling it unless I come across another stone that sort of takes its place in a way, but we'll see. I did regret selling my little sort of level 4 4.5 hardness stone. It was a nice stone to use, more pleasurable than that level 5. So if you're thinking about getting any stone, because you can ask about the hardness of it and whatnot, but Jnats especially, if you're getting it from a vendor, at least half knows what he's at, you can ask him about the hardness, because it is a way the Japanese people, I believe, at least help grade their stones. It don't mean it's good or bad, it don't mean it's a good cutter, it don't mean it's fast, it don't mean it's slow, but what it means is it's soft or hard. And yeah, the hard ones, they're just, I won't go as far as saying more soulless, because I really do enjoy my level 5 finisher, but they're not as fun. They're not. And it's just because they act like synthetics a little bit more, I guess. Runs laps lovely, as since I first put it on the stone, apart from me having to chase that nick around. As you can see, it is getting around to nearly the very end of the razor now, and it was such a bugger. That's what makes me think it's definitely made from Swedish stock, the steel, because, well, let's just say I've traded in a lot of Swedish razors and I own a fair few that are sort of some of my best razors, and yeah, it gave me the impression anyway, like scratch marks and everything. Yeah, I'm just going to have to let my dog out, because he's at least hinting to me that he might need to go to the toilet. Wait. Come, darling. Come on, garden. And out of all the dogs I've ever had, he's a bugger for getting to the point of just going, I need a poo, and he basically goes. He gives you like a 5-minute warning, whereas my other dog I've got presently, Ian Murray, he'd be like, "Ooh, ooh." And my last dog as well, he'd give you a lot of indication, whereas Willie, not so much so. Oh, we've nearly got rid of most of that Koma mud. It's bloody freezing here in the UK. Yeah, it's freezing in here in the UK. We're getting our cold snaps now. There's not me moaning, I quite like UK weather. I quite like its variable, mixing it up. Right, we're going to give it a few more laps. I'm going to give it the little V's and that, get rid of the wire edge as best as we can. And we'll give it a little look under the microscope and see what we're hitting and what we're not. If you've watched that video that features the crop that I did like first with this stone, you can see that the heel was a bit lacking. Like, it was lacking to start with, and I knew it was. It was just about popping kind of hairs on the 12,000, so I knew it was a bit lacking, because you can you know, if you've got a good bevel set and everything on the 12, you take it off of there and you don't even really need to strop it, and it kind of should be popping basically without even stropping. But even with a bit of stropping, the heel was lacking a bit. It's one of my future razors, so I didn't mind too much. I still gave me an impression it was going to be a good shaver. But yeah, under the microscope, when I first started doing the testing on this stone, wow, you could really tell that it weren't hitting the heel lights. Natural stones are quite a good indicator. If you get your, I don't know, say if you got it up to like 8,000 grit, so it's starting to do a bit of mirroring, a bit of polishing, like proper polishing. Yeah, the Jnats and other natural stones as well, they can really show you where it's not naturally hitting. I don't think this is going to be the case. It's just got a lovely bevel on this. And if you've never shaved with a frame back, they are just wonderful razors. They really were. You know, everybody bangs on about hollow grinds and all the various other sort of grind patterns, but you get one of these set right, especially a Swedish frame back, and you're in for some fun, like you really are, because they've got their own particular little style of shave, and they can be a bit bitey if you get them too sharp. And they do come in different grades of sort of, some of them are a little tiny bit sort of flexible still, but most of them shave a bit like a wedge. They're quite stiff. Right, where are we? There we go. So that's hitting all the way down to the heel on that side. We'll just fast forward it because I'm only checking the edge for damage really at the moment. See, it's not hitting it full bore there. It's a tiny bit bitty in it towards that end, but like I said, the amount of hours I've spent on that bloody little curve. A little bit lacking there, isn't it? Yeah, towards the end again. A little bit lacking at the heel a bit as well, I think. This side. We give it some more. We'll give it some slower ones and see what the water's doing. It does release a little bit at the heel, toe there, doesn't it? Not as much that side. A little bit. Like I said though, it's popping all the way along the 12, so I know it was a good, or good enough bevel set anyway. Because at the end of the day, lads, if you ain't done your bevel work right, it will not pop hairs. You can, you know, you'd be there a month and Sundays on the bloody 8,000 grit. I was reading something the other day and it was saying how, like, you can take it up to the 5. Like, if you think your bevel's set, take it up to the 5. Give it a real good go at the 5. Because you've got to remember, like, 5 is your... Well, I think Sean said it the most sort of, well, I wouldn't say the best, but he did a video on it saying about how, I think he kind of almost entitled it the 5,000, the workhorse. And he's totally true. I do kind of think the bevel set's the bloody workhorse, but I know what he meant, and he was correct. Like if you put the time in on the 5, you will end up with a good edge. It is, you know, it's the first sort of stage of polishing, we call it. My Shapton Pros do leave serrations on the 5, but it's definitely the, you know, the first sort of, well, polishing stage. And if you spend a bit more time in that, like, just like he was saying, you really do improve your final edge. And this chap, I was like reading what he was saying about it, his like thoughts on it as well. He was saying about like, yeah, get it, you know, do your best on your 5, spend a bit more time on it, get on the strop. And if it's starting to pop hairs, or if it's not quite popping hairs, because when you get quite experienced, you'll notice that even if it ain't popping hairs, it's wanting to grab it a bit, and that's the bit before it starts popping hairs. So he was saying about how, like, if you just get it to that sort of point where it's grabbing the hair, or at least you can feel it tugging the hair ever so slightly, you're going to be in for a good shaver kind of thing. Especially when you first start out on the hones, it's handy to know all those little things, the little, because after you've honed, let's just say 100 razors, or even sort of 50 razors, you're going to be pretty experienced. You don't kind of need to do all these little funny things that you see people doing on the internet, because you can just sort of, you know, just feel it. Like I said, like I do a thing where like it's especially kind of there, where the joint, like just above my first joint, like you can just kind of do that, especially on the 12,000, and it just start peeling off your fingerprint ever so slightly. And I don't do it to peel off my fingerprint or anything, but you can see that it's gonna, and it's like, you just know. But once you've done enough like of those little tests, whatever it might be, over time, you can feel it, man. Like, you can just feel it. You can just feel it. It's like I do a lot of honing, kind of going into the evening some weeks, and like if I'm stood here, I ain't got the best light. I am going to replace the light in the kitchen up there, because it's just not, this whole area is a bit dull and all the lights are behind me, so it's not best for honing, and I don't do my finishing at night because of that light. But if I turn so my razor's facing that way towards the light, I can just sort of do this and that, and I can tell, like just looking at the bevel, get it the right distance away from me. You can tell whether there's any sort of like bits that are not hitting the apex and that. I always say, you find your own little ways. It's not rocket science, it's just practice with a few sort of fundamentals to it. It's running really smooth on the stone. Let's have one more look, then we clean the stone off, we'll give it a few laps. That's nearly it's kind of nearly clear as it is really. I still always like to just give it a little wash off and then go again for a few more laps. Oh, it's definitely hitting down there properly now. Yeah, it's hitting better. It's still not, I wouldn't say it's hitting it perfect down there on the, what's that, the face side. It's hitting it. It's putting a few serrations in it, isn't it? But it's putting a few serrations in it. That side. Let's change that focus. It's the wrong. There you go. That's a bit better. I mentioned in the other video before. Yeah, it's a bit scratchy, this stone, it is. Because they definitely weren't there, those scratches there, look, you see them. They definitely weren't there. Is that the interaction between this stone and the Koma? We'll find out over the next coming months. I've got, what have I got now? I think I've got 4 or 5 naguras. I've got a Tomo nagura from an old, well, my old Jnat. Yeah, I have. I've got 4 of those Osano ones, so we'll go through them slowly and have a little gander and see what we end up with, really. You know, some of them might not favour this, that might not favour it. You know, if anything, maybe that's a little bit too hard, because it's definitely drawing up the base stone. I know one thing, I don't think this stone's going to be a stone that I get airs popping straight from the stone, but you know, we'll try different things out. I will, you know, like at the moment you can kind of say I'm putting any real pressure on the razor, but I could do it softer, like slow down a bit and do it even softer than what I am doing it. So again, there's all these little variables you can play around with and find out what the stone prefers. Tape making that noise, it does my nutting. Almost makes the noise that sometimes you make if you accidentally tip the razor up, but it's not, it's the tape. What side are you looking at? It's more that side, wasn't it? It's more that side. Just going to do a few where I tip the razor up, because I've been having to tip the razor up ever so slightly at the last bit of the lap, at the last bit of the stroke, to get around that corner a bit more. Have some lunch after this, nice coffee. Gonna have crumpets, lads, eh? Do any of my American razor friends know what a crumpet is? A UK crumpet? I wonder. I'll have to have a little look, see if there's an equivalent your way. Gonna put Marmite on it, butter, load of butter, some Marmite, and then peanut butter. Oof. If you want to sweeten it, you can even put some strawberry jam on it. But even, I think we call jam different to the Americans as well. Right, let's do some little V's and then we'll have one little last look and then see if we can get it popping. Might have to do a bit more to it, don't know. We can always raise some Tomo up, can't we? Some diamond Tomo. We're into a world of unknowns here. Each razor is going to act a bit different on the stone. Each different sort of metal, the lot really. So it's definitely shined up a little bit. Yeah, it's not hitting it totally even though it seems like it is. Like I said, it's been nice to hone apart from the toe. It's definitely adding a few. I say that, and this you know, Swedish steel can be a little bit scratchier sometimes. It's definitely hit it a little bit more from the last one, I think. Still got them little serrations though, you can see them there quite good. I'm sure they weren't there on the 12,000, I'd have never left it on the 8,000 really. Right, I'm just going to go straight to the paddle strops today, purely because, well, I had to on the last razor, the first razor. This is only the second one, so we're going to go straight to the paddles. Paddles really are good for straight off the stones. I was using paddles straight off the stones for months and months and months, and I definitely noticed an improvement off the stones in my edges. Like paddle strops, especially ones that are stiff like this, that have got no give, they're not much good for maintaining a razor after, I don't know, 2 or 3 shaves. And the reason being is, when you use a hanging strop, like if you just use the paddle straight off of the stone and then you kept on using the paddle, you'd probably be alright. But if you use a hanging strop from the stone, after a few shaves, after a few goes, many a lap on the hanging strop, you convex your edge. So what I mean is you've created an edge that's like that. If you use straight stones, flat stones, you know, you've created a proper point, apex, bevel, you know, a real point. Whereas when you use a hanging strop, eventually you end up, you know, with a convex kind of edge. So if you use a paddle strop, your very apex will be hiding from the very, you know, from the very surface you're trying to, well, hone basically, strop. So they serve a purpose and they're brilliant, I think. You know, this one's got one micron diamond paste. If you ever get your diamond paste, just make sure it's from an actual proper company. You know, that deals and specialises in paste of some sorts, because you need it to be consistent. And well, if you just buy cheap stuff, you know what I mean, I don't think you've got like the guarantees in a way. I actually got mine from Hong Kong of all places, just because it was a bit cheaper, and it was from a company called THK. But they got a good rep, and I've used it for a good few years now. I did do this once, and somebody messaged me saying, "You're spreading diamond paste onto all 3," and I was like, well, yeah, I am, and I kind of know I am. But I sand them down periodically, and I am going to clean this one a little bit, but I sand them down periodically and then put my diamond paste on them. I don't really care, because, you know, 1 micron to half micron to a quarter micron, it still does its job. You know, and I know if I didn't just wipe it down like that, I can contaminate a bit. But like I said, I recondition them, so quite regular. Most important though is you clean the razor before you go to a hanging strop, if the hanging strop is a clean strop. It's always important, even when you just come off the stones. Just give your razor a good little wipe down, because otherwise you might be putting a bit of stone grit on your strop. 9 times out of 10 it'll probably be fine, but then every now and then you might get a sort of bit of a foreign thing on there. It's just good practice. That's what a lot of razor care is, really, forms of good practice, because you were dealing with such a little fine edge. Oh, bugger me, I was meant to do the bloody HHT straight from the stone forgot it. It's got quite a bit more drag, this one. I think it's because I sanded it a bit more. So you want to do nice little short V strops. With some razors you'd have to do still like a rolling V. So you know, like, that's exaggerating, but you know, so you go from the heel to the toe, heel to the toe. When you're doing your little V's, it's not something you should really notice in terms of seeing, it's more of like a little pressure thing really. But with this razor, it's on the whole very straight, so it's not got a rolling edge or anything. It kind of has a bit actually, but it's the frame back style, so it just acts a little bit different. And the little V's are just meant to help get rid of your rolling edges. Your wire edge. Well, at least that's what some of the old boys put in some of the old treaties and fingers crossed then. No. See, we've definitely got some work to do with this stone, haven't we? I don't even feel like us trying to bite. So it might turn out this is just a pre-finisher. Oh, see that then? Oh, right at the end. The place that you, in my head, I'd assume was no good. Oh, I did it once. Can't find it now. There you go. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go away and strop this now on a hanging strop, because it feels as sharp as anything. But it should be popping hairs. And if it don't go on the hanging strop, what I do is I'll come back to this and raise a diamond slurry on it. We'll see. I'll get it. Cheers guys. See ya. So after much to and fro, it's popping hairs. So what I had to do is none of the strops would get it going, barely anyway. So what I had to do was take it back to the 5000 on the Sheffield Pros and go back through the grit zone. Took it to 8000, stropped it a little bit, like 10 laps or whatever. Popped the, that's where my daughter is. Popped the, got it popping hairs again. Got it popping hairs again, and then I took it back to my new Jnat without, with its just a little bit of its own slurry. So I just used my little DMT plate just to refresh the top. Like I washed it first, and then just stropping on a normal strop, no paste or anything. It's now popping hairs. So I think we've now found out one thing, and is it don't like that Koma. And I've read lots about like, so popping it. And I've read lots about the interaction with stones and whatnot, but this is the first time I've had one of those Osano's Maduras, not Madura, sorry, nagura, that's not worked with a stone. So I've learnt something quite valuable today. Took me a bloody while though. it didn't take long to go back through the Sheffield Pros. It was probably only about, it was probably about 25 laps on the 5,000, and it weren't that many laps at all until it looked good enough to at least try stropping and everything. And like I said, it didn't take many strops to get it popping airs at 8,000 again. So whatever it had not done a lot of, well, damage, if we can call it that. Yeah, but it don't like that. So now I've got, well, another 4 Tomos I can try, but it does like its own juice. So because like I said, all I did was kind of reactivate the top with my little diamond plate, and it's worked. So I've learnt something new today. Cheers lads, see ya.